a seat, sip some wisdom, and stay a while. This is the Prosperity Lounge, where growth gets personal. Step inside, we're breaking chains. All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Prosperity Lounge, Friday night. Hope everybody's doing well. Turn that down on me. I don't need to hear an echo. Great. So we're about 5 minutes to showtime, 3 minutes to showtime. My guest tonight is Adilynn Walker. She's over here. I'm going to bring her on camera. How do I bring her on camera? It's a new system I'm using. Nope. Better now than when the show starts.
Yeah.
I need to get rid of this. Remove. There we go. Awesome. Even better. How you doing, Adilynn?
Good. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Hope everybody can hear okay. We're going to check the chat here, see what's going on. Where's the chat? There we go. Perfect. So we're going to get ready to start soon. If you got questions for her, I'd love to see it in the chat. Mr. Brian Walker, someone we both know very well, is showing us a picture of him. It's already streaming at a party. Come check it out. Look at that. Get some views, get some counts. All right. Thank you, guys. Yeah, if you have any questions for Adilynn, please put it in the chat, or you can text us during the show. That'd be great. And we're going to talk a lot about leadership tonight. You know, I heard her speak the other day at Rotary, and it was fantastic. And beginning of the speech, I was like, "This is great, super." And then I said, "I got to record this because I needed to hear more from you." And I think this is going to be great for tonight. Could you just give a little shout out in the mic? I want to make sure the mic's working here for everybody to hear on the chat.
Hello.
How's that? Is that working well? All right. Is it good? Can you hear her? Can you hear her? No? Okay. Well, we'll make it work. Yeah, you're going to go with mic 1. We want to make sure. We got to turn these on. So I want to go ready. We're going to hit this and make it go green. All right. You hear me, Vance? All right, we're getting ready to live. Okay. I'm going to pop you off. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Prosperity Lounge, where hope meets freedom and growth gets personal. I'm your host, Joey Ruffalo, best-selling author, business coach, and your guide each week to financial clarity, business growth, and the kind of mindset that breaks chains and builds legacy. Whether you're a side hustler, a CEO, or somewhere in between, this show's for you, because prosperity isn't just about your bank account. It's about freedom in every area of your life. Now, thank you all for tuning in last week. Last week was July 4th. We were not live last week, but we had a show, and I thank you all for watching that one and checking it out. That was our special July 4th Freedom Special, our Declaration of Financial Independence. We had a great episode on that. In case you missed it, we explored how the Declaration of Independence is tied to the principles of personal and financial freedom. We talked about 5 foundational phrases, and it was a great episode. If you haven't yet, you can go to theprosperitylounge.com/freedom and download your free Declaration of Financial Independence guide, which you could fill out yourself and sign in big bold letters and put it on your fridge and really have it for yourself to check out and look at. You can also go to the prosperitylounge.com and join the free community. Get in there, have some fun. We're having a blast in there, connecting, learning from each other, just having a grand old time. Really, really appreciate everybody that's in there so far, having fun. Definitely, the connections are great. It's free. You can also check out the our prosperity planner. What is the prosperity planner? Well, the prosperity planners are budgeting tool. It's free for 30 days, and you get access to. I don't know how they do it, but they get access to an AI Joey to answer questions. So if you got problems and you want to ask it in the chat, you'll get an AI Joey answer. It's crazy. So anyway, fun stuff over there. So each week we try to have somebody on who embodies small business, community wellness, leadership, personal finance, something along those lines. Today, I'm real excited because we're pulling up a seat next to someone who embodies what leadership looks like in the next generation. Not in theory, guys, but in practice. Adilynn Walker isn't just a student. I'm going to get corrected on this, hopefully. She's the Regimental Commander of the Corps Cadets at Virginia Tech. I'm getting a thumbs up that that's correct. What does that mean? That means she's leading over 1,400 of her peers with a philosophy that's grounded in pride, fortitude, transparency, and mentorship. It's amazing. So what does that mean? What's that look like? Well, as business owners and leaders, we often talk about systems, scaling, success. But the principles that Adilynn is going to share in her story are just as essential in the boardroom as they are on the drill field. So my guest today, like I said, is Adilynn Walker, senior at Virginia Tech, majoring in economics, minoring in political science, and serving as the regimental commander of the Corps Cadets, the highest ranking cadet on campus. That means, like I said, she's responsible for overseeing the training, development, and the well-being of over 1,400 of her fellow cadets. But what struck me most wasn't just her resume, it was her philosophy of leadership. It's built on 4 pillars: pride, fortitude, transparency, and mentorship. And I'm really excited to talk to her, and I'm really excited for you to hear about everything she's doing and learn more about the Corps, learn more about leadership style and what the next generation is doing, because I'm real excited for this next generation here. So welcome to the Prosperity Lounge. Adilynn, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. 21 years old.
20, actually.
20. Oh, my bad. Sorry. 20 years old. Very impressive. I remember when I was 20, finishing school. I just had gotten married. It's probably way off in your future. Started a business, learning life through the school of hard knocks. But you've taken what seems to be a calculated look at life and said, bring it on. Tell me more about your journey from when you decided this is what you want until now.
So my journey kind of started really early on when I decided I wanted to join the military, and I knew that I wanted to be a leader in that sense. So I looked at kind of what I wanted for the future, and I knew that I wanted to push myself and I wanted to be outside my comfort zone in that sense. So I decided that I wanted to join the military, which, needless to say, was very outside my comfort zone at the time and very outside my family's comfort zone as well. So they were really helpful in the sense that they gave me the opportunity to join different programs. So I started in the United States Naval Sea Cadet Corps, which is a youth program that's sponsored by the Navy,
Okay.
which kind of led me down that naval route and being from Southern California originally. And then throughout high school, doing JRC and different opportunities, I decided I wanted to go to a military school because I wanted the structure of that.
Hmm.
And I wanted to be around people that I could find mentors and kind of figure out what type of leader I wanted to be, because I knew I had a long way to go before I was ready. So I wanted to put myself in the best situation to learn that. So I was looking at Virginia Tech. And what's unique about Virginia Tech and the Court Cadets program is that we're on a large campus of about 28,000 students. And then we have that smaller community as well, the 1,400 students. So it really stood out to me.
Okay. Was there any point in your life, like a significant event that you were like, "Hey, this is gonna make me. This is why I want to join the military." Like for me, when I was around your age, 9/11 happened,
Mhm.
and that was a driver for a lot of my peers to join the military. Myself, I would say myself included. I explored it, but I was newly married at the time, didn't have the opportunity to kind of do that. And it's something I look back on and be like, man, I really wish I would have joined the military because my dad was Army, raised us up in that way, kind of told us, pride in the flag, pride in our country. And there's other ways to exert that pride and enthusiasm for our country than just the military. But is there a significant event that might have occurred in your life that said, I want to do this rather than just like, hey, I need some structure?
Mm. I would say there's not truly like a defining moment. I will say, growing up in Southern California, I was always around my parents' businesses and I always saw them working. But the people we were around, I think you could really tell a difference in seeing my friends' parents who were in the military and those who weren't, and seeing like my parents' colleagues that were veterans and who weren't. Because you can tell kind of that camaraderie and that brotherhood they have, even if they've never met each other, they've never served together, there was still a brotherhood.
Hmm.
There's also a really common theme of values through that. So that's what initially sparked my interest. But I honestly still had no idea what I was getting myself into, which is what led me to joining the Sea Cadets and getting that experience. And through that, I actually had the opportunity to get more involved and see more things, which part of that was actually being able to do 21 gun salutes at military funerals,
Okay.
which was something that I had never seen before.
Hmm.
And kind of just being around that honor and that pride for that person's service and what they did really inspired me of, wow, I'm so grateful and so appreciative of what they did for us. I want to do that too. Like, I want to give back and I want to fight because they fought for us.
So like a continuation of pride, honor, success from previous generations. You want to be that person to do it currently and then provide that for the next generation behind you, like somebody that they can look up to.
Yeah, I think there's a big emphasis on this string of generational pride, like you were saying, and that's really important of being one of those people who's willing to step out and do that, which is really inspirational to me.
I love that. I love that. Could you tell us a little bit more about what Sea Cadets is?
So it's a nonprofit youth program that I was involved in high school, and I'm actually still involved in right now as an adult leader. But it's funded by the Navy,
Okay.
and it's kind of like a weekend activity in a sense of you get to go and we call it drill, but you get to learn what it means to be in the military, learn different skills, learn how to march,
Hmm.
get involved with what you want to do, and that's all volunteer run, which are usually veterans.
Okay.
So you get to meet those people. And then in the summers, in the winters, we actually got to do winter training. So I had a lot of opportunities to go to Florida and go to different parts around the country to learn different aspects of the Navy and other branches as well, to
Hmm.
kind of get your footing of what we're looking at.
So you said winter, then you got the Florida in winter. I thought you were saying winter. You go to Alaska,
No,
some of the cold places, learn how to do snow
no.
training or anything like that. You're like Florida. Wintertime
Anytime
is
we
fine
were
with
off
me.
school, we were trying to get out and do something, which was
Okay.
a great experience.
Fun. And then after that, you talked about junior, it's
Mhm.
JROTC, which is
Yes,
what does that stand for? Do you know?
that's Junior Reserve Officers Training Corps,
Love it.
which is eventually what I joined in college of the actual Reserve Officers Training Corps. But
Okay.
in high school, that was a program when I got to Tennessee that I was able to participate in.
Okay. Now, is that something that somebody does with the intention of exploring military as a career, or is that something that's more like a high school? Hey, I want to get some structure. I want to learn some stuff, and then learn some skills, and then go off into the world, explore traditional college degrees or anything like that.
It can honestly be both, which is what I really liked about it. Is you go in and there's no expectation of service. There's no expectation that you're going to the military. So you can do it to see what you like. If you do, if you don't, you can also do it because you know you want to go into the
Okay.
military, and you can also do it because you like structure, which is makes it a really unique leadership challenge as well because everyone has a different goal.
Sure. So it kind of gives you a taste of what it's like without actually signing the paperwork and you're stuck.
A little bit,
Okay,
yeah.
gotcha. That's a good thing, guys. If you are looking, if high school kids, you're looking to you know test it out and see what's out there. You get some structure, you learn some leadership skills, get something on your resume, get something on your transcripts, and decide whether or not this is a good idea for you or not, and then go from there. So great. So I want to get into the topics for today, and that topic was talking about leadership, especially those four pillars. Now, I had the opportunity to listen to you at Rotary um, this past week, and like I was saying earlier, as you were talking, I decided, well, I got to record this because this is amazing. And then when you were done, I was like, I have to have you on the show. So I was like, let's get this done. And your topic was on leadership, and especially four specific areas of things like pride, fortitude, transparency, and mentorship. So what I want to do is I kind of want to break them down one at a time and talk about what they mean, not just in military or college campus, but specifically, in a business, in a team, in your family, for instance. So let's start with pride. Now you had said in this speech, and again, I'm privy to this, so I'm going to bring it up here. The organization you belong to is your home. It's your responsibility to drive it forward. And that's not just true for a cadet battalion. I mean, it's true for your company, your brand, your culture. Small business owners, listen up because this is your brand, your team, and your culture. It starts with you. The pride you set carries the tone for everyone else. Your pride, what we found, is contagious. It bleeds into how your team shows up. It shapes how your customers experience your business. If you're not proud, no one else will be. So whether you're running a bakery, a tech firm, a service company, people buy into the belief before they buy your product. Now, you were talking about earlier seeing that pride played out in funeral services and also just in regular day-to-day operations in the C cadets and the ROTC and where you're in now. What does pride, why is pride the first thing we talk about?
Pride was really important for me because kind of believing in what you're doing. Because if you don't believe that what you're doing is beneficial and you don't believe that the place where you are is beneficial, like, why would you be in that place? And I think
It
that
makes
people
sense.
use
You're
it
right.
kind of as an excuse of, well, it doesn't really matter. But if the organization you're a part of doesn't matter, then why are you a part of that organization?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you can go into a restaurant and you can see there's, maybe the chairs aren't, they're the upholstery is cracked and they're not, it looks kind of like, man, maybe they should upgrade this stuff. And then they come and they don't place your plate down. They kind of throw your plate down a little bit. And it's like, you can see like, okay, they really don't have pride and ownership of what they're doing. And it bleeds into the workmanship and it bleeds into, I'm going to be 5 minutes late without telling you I'm going to be 5 minutes late. And then pretty soon you're out of business. And it's
Exactly.
crazy. How do you help others in your organization develop that same sense of pride and ownership that you have?
So in the core, our most common goal is we're all trying to graduate, obviously, but we're also trying to graduate as leaders.
Okay.
And a lot of what I like to relate to people I'm around and relate to my friends with is you want to be proud of this place when you graduate from it.
Mm,
And you want to be proud to say that, yes, I graduated from the Corps of Cadets. Yes, I graduated from Virginia Tech. And I think that encouraging them to take steps that gets them towards that. And also just that mindset of always being the example in everything you do, which is, again, if you don't care about an organization, you don't care about the image, then you're going to ruin the image for that because you
right.
yourself as a member are the image.
And that's important to understand. Like when you are out in the community now too. Now, I know for me, from a personal standpoint, I like to wear shorts and sweat sometimes and track pants and everything else. And I was talking to somebody about running for a position last year, and they're like, Man, I see you in sweatpants all the time. Start wearing jeans. And I was like, whatever, this is me. People are gonna like me for me. And I said, you know what? Yeah, I have to present myself how people see me or how I want people to see me and not just like dismiss me because of what I'm doing. So I think what you're saying is true. Like that outward sense of pride and showing that is really, really important.
That's actually kind of a lesson of hard to learn the hard way a little bit coming into these leadership roles in the Corps.
Mm,
For example, like this semester when I was helping one of my friends move out, and a colonel walked by with a university official and saw me on at my friend's car helping them move and said, "Oh, this is our regimental commander. I'd like you to meet this person." And I was like, "Oh wow, you're always on. Like you're always that image. You're always that face."
hmm
And making sure that wherever whether I'm walking around campus or whether I'm just getting food, it matters what you look like and it matters how you're presenting yourself because even though
Exactly.
you're not on the clock, your images.
You're on the clock 20. You're on the clock even if you're not on the clock.
Exactly. You have to live that purpose.
Now, talking about pride, can pride be a can it be a stumbling block in leadership?
It definitely can. And I think that's the difference is having being prideful of yourself versus prideful for your organization.
Hmm,
And that's kind of a mindset switch you'll see where it's like, oh, the organization is lucky to have me and I'm making the organization better versus I'm lucky to have this organization and how can I glorify that and how can I make this organization better?
okay, I love that.
I think that's kind of a double mindset switch, which can hurt a lot of people.
Yeah. So speaking of outcomes that may not go your way, how does how do you handle moments when you don't feel proud of the outcome? Has that ever occurred?
It's definitely occurred.
Okay.
And I think it's goes into owning the failures, which is
Hmm.
we all know it's difficult to do a lot of the times.
Very difficult.
And looking to the people around you to be honest and if you don't know how to fix it, asking for help in that sense.
Hmm.
But
Yeah,
there
and that
are
gets into some
moments.
of the things we talk about later on, where that mentorship aspect comes into play.
Mhm.
So a lot of all these four things are very connected.
Yes.
They don't just stand on their own. You have to have all four of them in order for you to. I mean, you could have one, but you're not going to go far.
Mhm.
You have to have all four of these, and probably more. But I love these four here because they're just so intertwined with each other.
But it's really hard to boil down.
Right, right. Like usually the one thing. No, it really isn't. It really isn't just one thing. So what are some habits or daily habits that you use or you could suggest for others that would reinforce pride, like in a unit, a team, a business?
I think perspective is important
Okay.
and making sure you're kind of zooming out and looking at how your actions affected both your personal development and organizational development.
Okay.
Because it's kind of twofold. Is the more you develop yourself, the more you develop your organization, especially as like the small business owner mindset. But say daily habits is kind of looking at your short term, long term, and mid-term goals really regularly, at
Okay.
least weekly, but especially the short term goals daily of how are you affecting those things? What did you do? And then obviously, I'm a big routine person,
Okay.
really strictly. So, kind of following that routine each day so you can see progress over time.
I love that. I was bracing for like the 3 mile hike or the ruck runs or something that I had to do every day that you guys have to do at the core over there to get training done.
I do think it's a lot more mindset
Okay.
than because if your mind's not right, you can't get that physical done
Good.
anyway. Where
'Cause if I got to get up and run 6, 10 miles with backpack full of stuff, I leave that to you youngsters. I,
but it's a lot of mindset of making sure you're in a personal growth
yeah.
mindset where even if you did have a mistake that day or you didn't have a successful day in any sense,
Hmm.
having that mindset of being like, okay, it's like this is what I did poor this, but I can do better tomorrow. And having that mindset of you're not getting locked into the grind as well of that wake up,
Yeah.
work out, sleep, repeat.
Sure. And really understanding too that whatever's going on, it's really just a moment in time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that situation that you're in that was uncomfortable. By the time you realize it's uncomfortable, it's over and you're not in that situation anymore. So stop being uncomfortable with the situation that occurred.
But I think it's also important to actually evaluate to see if you to make sure you are putting yourself in enough uncomfortable situations. Because I think it's really
Mm,
easy. And what I see is people like in that grind mindset of like, I woke up, I worked out, I went to class, I came back, I ate food, and I went to bed kind of sense. And they're not looking for outside opportunities to do something new or do something new that pushes yourself.
mm.
So I think that can get really negative of putting yourself in that every single day grind.
Okay, I gotcha. Because we get into a comfort zone, like you're saying
Mhm.
there. We just get comfortable with, yeah, we're producing results, but are we really up to our potential?
Exactly.
Okay, wow. How does how does pride influence your long-term vision?
For me personally, in my position I am now, it's influencing my long-term person vision because I'm looking at how can I get more cadets exposed to more things and how can I get the world more exposed to these cadets and how can I push that out
Hmm.
because I want to see the the Corps as a world organization. I want it to be known as the nation's best leadership institution. So for me, having pride in my organization is like, this is a great place. We need to share that with people. And me looking long term, it's like, how can I develop people so that I can put them in front of people and show them how amazing they are, as well as how can I live that so I'm not a detriment to the organization.
I love that. So basically, you're saying getting more people excited about coming, so
Mhm.
there's more people involved, for more people to spread the message of how awesome this is.
Yes.
I love that. I love that. So takeaway questions for business owners. Just think about some of these. What part of your business are you most proud of? Do you and your team feel that pride in their experience? And are you driving your vision forward or just showing up for the ride? I mean, those are some things you really have to have a hard look at yourself for if you're a business owner. All right, let's talk about fortitude. That's the next one here. You pointed out that the real test of buy-in doesn't happen when you're being watched. It happens when no one's looking. I always
Mhm.
talk about that being integrity. If you're doing something when no one's looking, right? In the core, you talked about that being sophomore year. In business, it's years 2 through 4. The novelty wears off. The grind sets in. Some of this is where we'll get into discuss mentorship. Like we talked earlier, all this stuff goes hand in
Mhm.
hand. But one of the things we've learned in small business owners, and they can attest to this, is that the average cost of turnover for employees is about $15,000, maybe more. I'm probably underestimating for per employee with turnover. So if you got somebody in there who's buying in day one, and you're like, all right, have fun, and then fortitude comes in, you stick out that first year, and this is we're talking about this again with mentorship, and that novelty wears off, and that person leaves, and you're always constantly hiring and training the people rather than building up the people you already have. It can get costly for businesses. One of the things you also mentioned in your speech the other day was self-development is your own responsibility. And if you got to remember why you put yourself in uncomfortable places to begin with. And that line hit me really, really well. So, what practices or habits have you helped you strengthen your own sense of fortitude when motivation starts to fade?
I mean, everyone, the definition is when motivation fails is when discipline kicks in.
Ooh,
So I think there is a sense of discipline in there is going back, like I'm a routine person
hmm,
because there's discipline in that.
okay.
And there's discipline in this is the routine I do because I do it and this makes me better. But I think before you can set in those routines and before you can set those goals, you have to have that self reflection of self improvement. So you have to reflect in how you want to get better, how you want to develop yourself, and how you can do that before
Mm,
you can set those realistic goals and then create the actions into your routine that will get you to those goals.
okay. Let me take it back a step from what we talked about in the previous one. We talked about sometimes people being in a sense of eat, sleep, repeat kind of thing. When those people get into those situations when they're starting that, they're probably trying to accomplish a goal. I want to be more routine. I want to go to the gym. I want to be more healthy. I need to do something, blah, 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 blah. I got this going. At what point does somebody need to sit back and evaluate those and say, did I hit that initial goal? Am I or am I even going to hit my goals with what I'm doing, and when do I need to reevaluate? It sounds like this is where we're kind of talking, kind of lead into that, is the reevaluation of that routine you're building.
Mhm.
When do you reevaluate that?
I think it's when that routine starts getting easy,
Hmm.
in the sense that if we look at again that 2 to 4 year mark in business,
Right.
where your first year or 2 years at a job, when you're getting started, you're getting that routine, maybe it's different hours of getting your life started in that routine of each day. When you start to get comfortable with that, I think that's time to really reevaluate how can I utilize this time and adapt this routine to meet my goals.
Okay.
And then you have to look at the goals you initially set and be like, okay, did I meet these? Do I need to adjust my actions so I do meet these? Or can I set more goals? Can I set something different?
And again, because these are all interconnected, this is probably again when mentorship comes in,
Yes.
and leaning on somebody to kind of say, are you sure you're on the right path? Maybe you try something different.
But I think that's also like, am I doing the right thing? Do I have the right goals? Or because a lot of times you don't know your weaknesses on your own. It's
Hmm.
really hard to look at yourself and be like, this is my weak area. But it's much easier when you have a mentor that's saying, hey, I think you'd be a lot more successful if we adjusted this a little bit.
I love what you just said, and I'm gonna repeat that. Do you have the right goals? That is amazing. That's an amazing takeaway from all this, because if you think about people, everybody's setting a goal, and some people just set easy goals so they can accomplish something.
Mhm.
And a lot of times it's good for motivation.
Yes.
When I'm working with a client, sometimes our first goal is like, hey, you're not going to spend on your credit card this week. You're going to spend cash, and that's an easy goal. It might be hard for some, sure it is, and it's very hard for some of the people I work with in the beginning, but it's relatively an easy goal. But eventually, that goal becomes routine.
Hmm.
It's not a goal anymore. So what's the next goal? Are you setting the right goals? Is your goal, and also, are you setting lofty goals that are just not reachable? Do I want to lose 500 pounds, or do I want to lose 5 pounds? What's the right goal?
I think a lot of that as well is setting short, mid, and long term goals as well, because those
Hmm.
short term goals can be like, I'm not going to spend this week, or I want to lose 5 pounds. That's a short term goal, which is great because it allows you to build that motivation and build that strength to keep going. But once you meet that, then you have that midterm goal, which
Hmm.
can become your short term goal, which can help build that.
Midterm becomes short, long term becomes mid, and set up new long
Mhm.
term goals. So you constantly have to be reevaluating your situation.
Because I think you constantly have to have something that challenges you in mind.
Speaking of challenges, can you share a moment where you almost gave up and you chose to press on?
I mean, there's been several moments over the past, starting like freshman year at a military school was obviously difficult, but I think when I started getting in positions of leadership in the Corps specifically, I was getting really frustrated at decisions that were being made that I couldn't change, even if I didn't think they were the right one.
Hmm.
And it got to the point where I was like, well, if I can't fix it or I can't help it, why am I even here? Or if you're going to make this decision with that's going to hurt so many people, that's going to hurt this, why am I in here? Like, why am I trying to do this?
Hmm.
And that was really frustrating to understand that just because you don't have control of a situation doesn't mean you can't make that situation better and doesn't mean you can't help the future. So I think, not to go into specifics because there's been several
Yeah, no, no,
situations
me
of
too.
this, but it gets really frustrating when there's not a trust in some of the decisions that are getting made.
Now, is that a perspective thing where you think there should be more trust, and they're like, I don't think you've earned it?
I think that's definitely a perspective thing as well, because sometimes, even if it's not the wrong decision, you just don't like that it was made by that specific person,
Right.
which happens a lot, which is when egos get involved as
Sure.
well.
Yeah,
But
I could see that. Um, Sophomore year,
mhm.
sophomore slump. How do you coach others through that at this point in your life as a leader right now?
Like, how would I coach the
How would you coach
sophomores?
the sophomores? Yeah. How did you get through sophomore? Did you have a mentor that was on you and guiding you? Or?
I did actually. I had a mentor who was a senior at the time, and he was doing the job that I wanted to have,
Okay.
which is why I was able to look at that and be like, okay, how did you get through sophomore year? Because I don't like where I am now, but I like where you are, so I'm going to push through this to get there.
Hmm.
But when I was a junior last year, and I was telling the sophomores, um, mostly I was like, you have the least amount of positional authority you will ever have right now as a sophomore, because their situation, they have 1 to 2 freshmen that they're directly in charge of, and nothing else really going on. They have little positional authority, like organizations, stuff like that. So I was like, you have the most free time to one, grow yourself, but also really in depth take the time with your specific freshmen as well as your peers. And I was also talking to them a lot about with having the free time and having kind of that slump period.
Hmm.
I was like, use that as a way to grow yourself and grow that resume for junior year and kind of get ready to be the best junior you can be. Because even if they didn't like where they were right now, they didn't like the job they're in right now, I was like, that's important because it's going to get you to the next step.
Makes sense. Okay. So there's light at the end of the rainbow.
Yes.
Maybe that doesn't make sense.
Also, I think
Light at the end of the tunnel. That's what I was
there's
saying.
a light at the end of the tunnel, but also like how you get to the end of the tunnel matters.
Right.
Because even though everyone's going to finish sophomore year, everyone's going to finish that period, you're going to come out on the other side different, and you're going to come out at the end of the side with the fruits of what you did. So you can definitely get through sophomore year not really having done anything. You can do the bare minimum with the job that you're given and just hang out and be a college student the rest of it. Or you can also look for jobs, look for odd jobs, look for little programs you can lead, look for little initiatives, or come up with your own initiatives and always be thinking. And that way, when you finish, when you get to the end of the tunnel, you're ready for the next tunnel.
Okay. Because there's always the next tunnel.
There's always the next tunnel.
How would you? Hmm, let's take this back. What advice would you give someone that's feeling stuck right now and wants to grow? Kind of touched on the goals aspect,
Mhm.
but someone out there right now is feeling stuck and they don't want to be stuck anymore. What advice would you give them from just a fortitude point of view?
I'd say take every little opportunity because you never know what that's going to lead to. There's been a lot of things that I've just said yes to
Hmm.
throughout my time in college of do you want to join this team and work on this project? Sure, why not? I have an extra hour per week. Or do you want to join this organization? Yeah, why not?
Okay.
And I think an example of that is my freshman year. Towards the end, I was really feeling stuck because a year is a really long time to be a rat. I'll say that. And one of my friends that I was in another organization with was one of my mentors. He said, "Well, join this alumni team. Just join it. You'll have to go to 1 or 2 meetings, and you'll get to like run events, and it'll be fun." I'm like, "Okay, whatever. Like, I have nothing better to do at
Sure.
7 p.m. on a Thursday. Like, I'll join this." And although I didn't see that being a really big opportunity. I just said yes to that, and I think being in that program opened up a lot of opportunities, and I think it led to me getting this position that I'm in now. It exposed me to a lot more and exposed me to a lot more people, exposed me to a lot more mentors. So I think it's when you're feeling stuck, just start looking for other opportunities. And if they're not presenting themselves to you, create them for yourselves. Going up to other people like, hey, can I go to this meeting with you? Hey, can I go to this organization? Or do you want to have lunch and talk about this thing of creating different opportunities. And then going into sophomore year when there's less people trying to get you to join their club and less people trying to get you to run this event, it's about coming up with your own event where no one's going to ask a sophomore to be the officer in charge of an event. But if you come up with the idea and pitch it, then you're automatically in that position, if that
Okay.
makes
So
sense.
finding opportunities where there are none
Mm-hmm.
and running with it.
Yeah.
Okay. And that translates to business as well too, because sometimes we get stuck in our business of offering the same services all the time or offering the same
Mm-hmm.
menu items all the time, but not if you're a food place. And then finding an opportunity to be creative and then expanding your horizons or offerings. It sounds like that's the same thing you guys are kind of pushing a little bit too. Is like there's the regimental stuff that you need to do, your routine, but there's an opportunity to explore everybody's sort of strengths and weaknesses.
Yes, and I think especially leading a team, it's so important that you understand where the potential is on your team because there's so much wasted potential in the world everywhere of team members that have really awesome skills that just aren't being utilized.
Hmm.
And I think that's really important role of a leader is understanding that those potentials and putting those people and putting those team members in positions where they shine because not only is that going to help them develop, but it's going to help develop your organization.
I love that. And we're gonna get into transparency next, which is we're building on things, people. We got two down, two to go. We got transparency. Now, you had said in transparency when in your Rotary speech, there's a skill to telling the truth in a way that makes people want to fix it with you. That's not just vulnerability, guys. That's an emotional intelligence. That's leadership. Controlling the narrative doesn't mean hiding the truth. It means sharing it in a way that invites collaboration and builds trust. So when you mess up as a business owner, there's a bad hire, a missed opportunity, a client issue. Do you try to spin it or do you own it with a positive, solution focused energy? And that's not just vulnerability, that's leadership. Can you share a moment with me or with the audience when transparency helped shift your team's mindset or approach during a tough situation?
So, beginning of my junior year, I was a company first sergeant,
Okay.
which means that I was leading a cadre staff of 7 of my peers. So, 7 other juniors, and we had 27 freshmen that we were in charge of as the 8 of us.
Okay.
And we do cadre week and then we do new cadet week, which new cadet week is the first time we get the freshmen and they are with us 24/7. We're walking them through the day of getting all the information they need to know before the first day of school to be a successful cadet.
Okay.
So it's very stressful, it's very high energy, it's very tiring.
Oh, I can imagine.
You're not getting very much sleep during the time. And during that, I had a really tough situation I had to deal with where one of my cadre sergeants was out of control. And I've sat down with him several times, like, hey, if you can't get this under control, like I have to pull you from the floor. It's a safety issue. I
Hmm.
don't feel comfortable with you being out. And it got to the point where I eventually did have to pull him from the floor. So he was no longer allowed to instruct freshmen for the
Okay.
remainder of that week. But the challenge of that is as the first sergeant, as the leader of those other people, I had to manage how they were receiving that information to maintain that team dynamic because I needed them to be a team and I needed them to work together to get the mission accomplished and get the freshmen ready for school, essentially.
Yeah.
So this was their friend, this was their peer. They had just spent now a week and a half of the most tiring week and a half of their lives working together. And I had to tell them that he wasn't going to train with them anymore. And it was a really big balancing act
Hmm.
of I can't just go out there and be disrespectful to their friend or be aggressive about the situation with their friend, but they also have to know what's going on and know why that happened so that way they can interpret that information themselves. One, it can make them a better trainer because they understand the standard a little bit more of what I'm expecting from them. But also, they have to know enough they can be supportive of their friend who's going through a hard situation at this point. So it was about the narrative of that situation was really challenging to manage of giving them the information of why it happened, what had happened, and what the solution was going to be, while still being respectful of the team dynamic they had developed. Because now we're one man down, we're going to work even harder for the rest of the week.
Sure.
And I still need them to be a cohesive team.
Right.
Because you can't, it's a balancing act, and I can't lie to them to try to remain their friend, but I also am not going to come out and become their enemy at the same time.
Sure. Sure. There's that style of coming in and going scorched earth,
Yes.
which doesn't really work a lot of times. But it kind of leads to this rowing in the same direction. Everybody rowing in the same direction, right, to go
Mhm.
forward. Which leads me to a little aside here. join the rowing team,
I did.
probably because you wanted to row in the same direction, right? A little bit more of like teamwork, team building, and team cohesiveness, huh?
I did. I've always been in sports growing up. I've always been on some sort of team, and I really missed that dynamic going on. So my junior year, I was like, I got a little extra time. Might as well start rowing in the mornings.
I have all this extra time in college. Oh my goodness, I love that. Um, how and again, you touched on this a bit with your situation that you just explained, but how do you create an environment where others feel safe being honest with you?
I think mutual respect is key there.
Mm,
Of the sense of I'm gonna talk to you in a respectful manner, so that way you're gonna talk to me in a respectful manner. And even if you don't, even if you choose to be disrespectful, I'm not going to, because you have to maintain, say, that image, that pride, that professionalism of
mhm.
I'm going to maintain my image and represent myself and my organization well, even if you're going to choose not to, because it's controlling the dynamic in
Yeah,
that sense and controlling that situation.
yeah, it's kind of like that treat people the way you want to be treated
Yes,
narrative. Okay,
there's a lot of social politics in that as well, of like when you're dealing with emotional situations.
yeah. Now, how do you balance transparency and oversharing?
I can't tell you that I do,
Okay,
honestly.
yeah, that's a tough one.
But I think, yeah, I can't tell you that I figured that one out yet. I'm
Okay,
still working on it,
well,
but I don't think you tell them as much as you can that won't hurt them
okay,
in a sense. There are a lot of like rules and regulations about what we're allowed to say, what we're not allowed to say. But I think also people want to feel important inherently.
yeah,
As humans, we're social animals. We want to feel important. We want to feel that the people in charge of us value us. And I think managing that, of making sure that even if you can't give the full information, tell them as much as you can and remind them that you value them. And there's a lot of verbal judo in that as well, of making sure that they feel valued.
did you say verbal judo?
Yes.
That's what I thought you said. Yeah, I love that because it goes back to that quote: "The skill in telling the truth in such a way that makes people want to fix it with you." It's that "in such a way" part that really kind
Mhm.
of stood out to me because it's you can tell the truth. Do I like fat in these clothes? Yes or no. It might hurt somebody's feelings, but if you say it in such a way like, "Oh, that color doesn't look good on you," they'll change their outfit.
And I think it's also like you can take ownership of an issue,
Mhm.
but you also probably can't solve that problem yourself. Like
Yeah,
if there was a failure and you couldn't fix it, then you probably don't have the skills to fix it yourself because you already failed in that one thing, right? So it's like, yes, the failure that happened with me, like I failed and that affects the team, but now I'm coming to you and I need the team to help me fix it. And at the end, we're all going to get better and we're all going to get to that goal that we had. And that's why we're a team, because we had the same goals.
yeah, I think that's very true with business and in life and finances. If you have a failure, you have these mental places you can go to remind yourself what that
Mhm.
failure felt like, so you never wanna feel that way again. And when you start
Yes.
feeling that, you're like, "Oh, I'm on that path to that. I'm gonna figure out what I'm doing wrong and fix it quickly."
That's even I saw that really tangibly as I'm in the exhibition drill team at
Okay.
Tech as well,
Mhm.
which means that
More free time.
we're performing at military ball in front of all of our peers. We're performing at Lane Stadium at a Hokie football game in front of 50,000 people. We're
Mm,
performing all the time. It's very public. But you're in a team of 8.
mhm.
Most of the time, you could be in a team of everyone if you need to. But if you're the one that drops the rifle for your team,
Oh, boy.
then you know you just messed up that performance for everyone else that was on the floor. However, you can't get better, so you don't drop it again without the other people helping you. So it's a balance of I'm taking ownership for this issue and that was my fault and I'm sorry, but can you please help me fix it? And being humble in the fact that you know you messed up and it's okay that you messed up.
That is the that is important for people, the humbleness of asking for
Mhm.
assistance that you don't see a lot of times in business and in finance, even when people come to me for coaching, it's like some of them are forced into it. Some of them, like the wife reaches out and the husband has no idea, he doesn't want to do it. And it's finding that balancing act of like, there's a humbleness to this. Okay. Now how do we approach this and how do we fix it? And what are the right questions to ask? And how do we get better? And I think what you're saying is again, there's a famous quote. I always attribute it to John Wooden, but it's like an old proverb. And it's like if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with a team. And pulling people around you to support you and lift you up and make you better
Mm-hmm.
is probably the most important part of it. And that brings us into mentorship. You like that transition?
Yes.
All right. I love that too. You had said leadership isn't just top down. You could be mentored by someone older, younger, or right next to you. We talk about leadership not just as something you get from a coach or an elder, it's something you find everywhere in your peers, your team, even those younger than you. And you also said having a mentor doesn't mean finding one perfect person. It means taking the best from those around you and building something better than yourself. And we talk about as business owners staying teachable, being open, even if you're the boss. It means asking questions, listening more, surrounding yourself with people who will challenge and sharpen you. So, what is one of the most unexpected or powerful mentorship moments you've experienced?
I think during my time last year, the most powerful time where I was like, oh, okay, like I did my job was when one of my friends who is also on my cadre staff was able to come to me and be like, I don't really think that this decision was great, but I understand that you had to make it. But I think that we could have done this better. And that really took me back because at first my ego kind of kicked in and I was personally, I was like, well, why? What are you talking about? Like, I had to do this, I was stressed. And all these things just flooded in my head of this ego. And why would you say that to me? And I was like, I can't do anything to fix it. But then after a lot of time had passed and I'd gotten a chance to calm down about that and really think and reflect on that, I was like, wow, someone who was under me and respected me enough as my friend and as my peer and respected me as a leader was able to come to me and explain why this thing, this decision that I had made negatively affect people and how it did that,
Mhm.
as well as how we could fix it in the future and how I could make those decisions differently. Because if I hadn't known that that decision had upset people, and if I hadn't been able to see that, then we just gotten a lot of disgruntled people at the end of the day. So he was able to come to me and say, hey, people are upset about this. This is how I think it might be good to go about it. And then we later, once I had learned the lesson that my ego was in the way of creating a useful solution, we were able to talk again and see, like, okay, how can we make it up with the people? How can we fix this situation?
So, in that situation, you had all four. There's some pride got in the way a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
some fortitude, and then the transparency aspect of like how much do you share when you make that decision. Then you made that decision. It was the right decision, but maybe how it was perceived at the moment, maybe you're saying it wasn't accurately great, but they came to you and said, hey, maybe if you make the same decision again, but we agree with the decision, just not how it was made or how it was delivered or how it was
Yes.
perceived or how it was put out there. We understand the decision, but if you would have done it maybe this way, everybody would have been 100% on board from day one rather than day 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
And then you learn that and go, okay, how can I fix that and make that better in the future?
Yes, I think that's being mentored from below you
Hmm.
is so important in that sense of I had worked the year to develop that mutual respect where he knew I respected his opinion enough that he could come to me with that.
Another saying that's out there. It's like lonely at the top, and being a leader
Yes.
is very lonely, and it doesn't have to be that way. I mean, you have to live with the decision you make. You have to. You're making the decision. You can't be influenced to not make the decision, but you can take people's opinions and comments and concerns into consideration and how the decision is delivered but shutting everybody out is not healthy, because there's a disconnect between you and your team, whether you're a business owner, whether you're a company commander, whatever. There's a disconnect that'll happen if they feel like they can never approach you.
Yes. And there's a quote as well that's like, you're not a leader if your soldiers aren't coming with issues.
Okay.
In the sense that your soldiers at any level should be able to go to their leader with issues to try to make it better. And I think going back to that kind of pride is we all know why we're here and we all know what the goals of this organization are. So it's in my best interest that you're not disgruntled with my decisions.
Right.
So why would I not want you to come to me with those issues? And being really transparent about my goals and being transparent about what I want for people and what I want from people as well.
Yeah. And that leads me to this next question: is how do you find or identify potential mentors that come from unconventional places?
I think a lot of times good mentors come to you.
Hmm.
And but it's
Yeah.
also a varied scheme of sometimes it's someone who's looking for someone to mentor, and sometimes you just meet someone along the way that has similar goals and you end up mentoring each other without even knowing it. But it's just
Yeah.
being open to different opinions and knowing personally who you are, what your values are, and what your goals are to allow those voices as well. Because also, if you have a great mentor or if you found someone along the way, you're like, wow, I want to be this guy when I grow up. But just doing exactly what they did or just trying to be as much like that person as you can be is also kind of negative.
Yeah. And I think there's an opportunity there for business owners and people to always be trying to mentor somebody else as well, not just be mentored yourself. I mean, you have something that you can give back to people. Just on my one of my previous episodes, this lady just opened a coffee shop in town, and she went to a coffee shop that she liked in Nashville and said, "How do I do this? How do I be like this?" And they gave her a rundown on what to do.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't looking to be a mentor that day, but was definitely a mentor to her and got her up and running. And she's thankful that there was an opportunity that somebody gave something back and wasn't closed off about, like, I'm not going to give you my trade secrets, or I'm not going to tell you how to be successful. Well, I think if we, it's that rising tide thing. Um, I'm going to go to me right here. Okay, Vance is yelling at me because my mic's too far away from my mouth, so I apologize. But yeah, so I think there's like the rising tide lifts all ships kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you close yourself off, you're not going to better the community around you, and you're not going to better yourself even. So yeah. So we're close to the top of the hour. We're running out of time. I got to get you a question here. So this is my favorite part of the show, is the Q&A section, and we're running out, but I'm going to get a couple questions in here for Adilynn here. My favorite part. I got questions coming in from all over. When I put this episode up the other day, I got a couple that came in. I want to get to one here from Miley from Atlanta, who asked, I'm currently starting my junior year of high school. Is it too late for me to get started? What would you recommend I do so I have options if I want to join too?
It is never too late to get started, especially when you're looking at a junior in high school. I'd say first of all, plug, because I think that Virginia Tech is the best leadership institution in the nation.
Better than Texas
Obviously,
A&M.
definitely better than Texas A&M. So I'd say do your research.
Okay.
There's so much information online, and we're in such a great age. So if you're looking at doing something right now in high school as a junior, I'd say I'm really familiar with the Naval Sea Cadet Corps. There's also great programs like Civil Air Patrol or other similar organizations that you can do in high school, which as a junior, I know it's really intimidating to start new things that close to your end, but take it from me, a junior that joined the crew team at Virginia Tech, you can do it and put yourself out of that comfort zone and get there. And then when you're looking to go to college, I'd say keep your options as open as you can. Apply everywhere, even if don't limit yourself to where you think you'll get in, but
Mm-hmm.
apply for everything. I applied for 2 academies and I applied for 4 different ROTC scholarships. So just
Keep working.
exactly put everything out that you can and try to get that
Yeah.
Just try to put all the feelers out that you can.
Put all that work out there you can, so you at the end of the day, you're like, I did it.
Exactly.
I'd leave
And
off
then
another table.
also, when you're making those decisions, ask for help, reach out, look for people who are doing that, and look for several different people that are where you want to be and see what they did, because they all had a different path, and their path isn't right for you, but maybe you can take pieces from theirs.
I love that. That's kind of the goal of the show, is to bring people out that are doing different things, and people can hear their stories and be like, man, I know what to do now. I can cut short the stress of the long run to get there, because I've heard what somebody did and it didn't work, so I know what to do now. I did get a question in the chat here. Some of you might know, Truth Between Lines has asked, how did her parents contribute to her success?
Heard this question before.
You have, asking you. Okay.
I'd say a lot of my parents taught me at a very young age about getting yourself out of your comfort zone, of go to meetings, go to things, go to people with questions, even if you're not completely comfortable with that. And then also, my parents really embraced that servant leadership mindset in me, which led me to the military eventually, because there's a lot of different ways to serve the community. There's a lot of different ways to serve the country. Find which one is right for you and do it with your whole heart.
I love that. Well, thank you for joining me today. I'd love to do it again, either on the radio or on the live stream on our channel, because there's a lot more questions that came in and a lot more I want to talk to you about mentorship. Maybe just do a one-off on that. It'd be amazing.
Could talk about mentorship for hours.
I know, for sure, absolutely. So, guys, if this episode spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone in your circle who's building, leading, or just needs encouragement today. So, what can we take away from this remarkable young lady who's running a corps of cadets? A lot more than you think, guys. Here's your recap. Lead with pride, even when no one's clapping. Dig in with fortitude, especially when it gets hard. Communicate with transparency, helps to build trust. Grow through mentorship, and offer it to others. Don't forget to download your free copy of the Declaration of Financial Freedom at theprosperitylounge.com/freedom. Check out our free, powerful budgeting tool, the Prosperity Planner, again, free for 30 days. And hey, if you know of rising leaders like Adilynn, send this episode their way. We need more voices like hers in this space, for sure. Did a fantastic job. Thank you so much. Until next time, everybody, stay faithful, stay fearless, and remember, freedom lives where faith and action meet. The lounge is always open, and so is your next breakthrough. This is the Prosperity Lounge. We are out.